I appreciate you being here this evening and for joining us for an opportunity to come together as a community to address some of the recent challenges in the Seneca Valley community, particularly around safety and security. My name is Everett Davis, and I serve as the Acting Associate Superintendent for Student, Family, Support, and Engagement. And it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you this evening to provide support to your school, to your students, to the families, to the community, and to your principal, Dr. Cohen. Although
¿Me pueden indicar si hay alguien que hable español para ayudar? Hagan una marca de alguna manera para saber si hay hispanos en la llamada. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Everett.
No, it's okay. No problem. We have our interpreter here to provide support as well. Thank you for that, Ms. Santos. And although the Student Family Support and Engagement team is here to provide support, and you'll hear from them in just a moment, as we are represented, we know that it takes a village in order to raise a child. Therefore, there are several other members, as you can see here, in the panelists in the virtual room. There are several other members of the MCPS team, as well as our community partners, who are here to provide support to you and to your community. And I want to pause for a moment to allow the members of the panel to introduce themselves. I'll ask each panelist to please introduce yourself, share your role, how you're here to support, and if you'll just indicate the next member of the panel so that they can do the same, and we'll go through our panel quickly. So I will turn it over to, let me go to Mr. Koutsos, if you want to start us off.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davis. My name is James Koutsos. I'm an Area Associate Superintendent in the Office of Teaching, Learning, and Schools. And schools within the Seneca Valley cluster fall within our area of responsibility. I'll turn it over to our director, Dr. Floyd Cooper.
Good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure to see so many families joining us tonight. I'm Rotunda Floyd Cooper. I am the area director for the Seneca Valley Cluster Schools, and it's a delight to partner with your principal, Dr. Cohen, to support daily operations at Seneca Valley.
Dr. Cooper, you want to turn it over to someone next?
I will pass over to my colleague, Ed Clark.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ed Clark. I'm the Chief Safety Officer for Montgomery County Public Schools. We support Principal Cohen in safety and security matters, as well as all schools throughout the entire school system. And at this time, I'd like to introduce our colleague and our partner from the Montgomery County Police Department, Captain Stacy Flynn.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Captain Stacy Flynn with Montgomery County Police. Thank you, Ed. And I am the director of the Community Engagement Division. So we have direct oversight for the community engagement officers, the former SROs, and we are all about the safety and security of the staff and students. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I'm going to turn it over to Commander Pallas.
Hi, good evening. I'm Ed Pallas. I'm the commander of the 5th District, the Germantown District, and that is where Seneca Valley High School resides. And I'm trying to look at our list to see who is left. Rosa, have you gone?
I'm going to pass. I'm not a panelist, but my name is Rosa Santos, and I'm the Parent Community Coordinator for Seneca Valley High School, and I'm here to serve the parents and the students.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Danielle Wilson-Saller. I'm an instructional specialist, and I'm in Student, Family, and School Services. And I'll pass it. And I'll pass it to Margarita.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Margarita Borges. I'm Acting Director of Student, Family, and School Services, and I supervise ESOL transition counselors and parent community coordinators, and we're here to support Mark Cohen and the whole community. Thank you.
Good evening,
Sorry, Shauna Kay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shauna K. Jornby. I'm the Director of Student Engagement, Behavioral Health, and Academics, and I work as a part of the Restorative Justice Unit in supporting Montgomery County Public Schools. And I'll turn it over to my colleague, Ms. Anita Perez.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anika Perez. I'm an instructional specialist with the Restorative Justice Unit. It's really great to be here. I'm going to pass it to Anita Garcia.
I think she was experiencing some technical difficulties. Ms. Garcia is one of the social workers within our restorative justice team. And so we're excited to have her as a part of the student, family, and support and engagement team as well. Anyone else who we did not introduce on the panel? Just want to pause to make sure we didn't miss anyone. All right, so as you can see, we are just a sampling of the team who is here to connect for student success. This evening is the beginning of the conversation. I want to say that again, this is the beginning of the conversation. You will hear about additional opportunities for us to come together. We will start our initial conversation this evening with the main outcome being devoted to answering questions, clarifying, and really not so much doing the work of the problem solving, which we hope to do and working together. And I say it's problem solving, but also an opportunity for us to come together as a community in moving forward. So just wanted to flag that for the audience, that the purpose of this time together is predominantly for clarification and question answering. And there will be future opportunities which we'll share later in the hour as far as what that will look like and when those opportunities will be. So just a couple of housekeeping items before we do get into this evening and how we'll spend the remainder of the hour together. You will notice that we will not be using our chat feature this evening. We will be using our Q&A. You should see a Q&A button there down at the bottom of your screen. And so we will be using our Q&A. You will notice, I know Dr. Cohen and the team sent out a survey, questions that you were able to submit in advance. And so we do want to honor those who submitted those, and we're not going to answer every, I think there might have been hundreds of them. We grouped them for the sake of time and for efficiency. So we'll go through themes where we can cover as many as possible, again, within our time together within the hour. Concurrently, if you do have questions, and maybe as you hear a response that you have an additional question, as I said, we will be using that Q&A, and we'll ask members of the panel to please to chime in to respond to those questions. So in other words, we'll have two different streams going, responding to the questions that were submitted in advance, as well as responding to the questions in the Q&A. And if at the end of our hour, there are still lingering questions, which I anticipate there will be, that we will have an opportunity to enter those questions again, the link that Dr. Cohen and the team had sent out, as well as an opportunity for us to jot down any follow-up so that we can circle back to the community and providing support to Dr. Cohen and the team to get you those responses. And then I'm sure he will speak to that as we continue through. So do want to have an opportunity, if there are no more housekeeping items, I'll just look to the panel to see if there are any other housekeeping items before we jump in and really honor the time that we have together. Hearing none, then I will go ahead and get us started with the questions that we have. And actually, before I do that, I did want to give Dr. Cohen an opportunity to frame, right, to jump right into the questions, I did want to give Dr. Cohen an opportunity to frame our conversation for this evening.
Thanks, Everett. And I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, especially our panelists and our parents at home who I know have a lot invested in the information that we're sharing tonight. I want to take a moment to take a deep breath. The last couple of weeks have really caused me the need, and I think many of us in the community, the need to take that deep breath and welcome some oxygen into the room. Collectively, we share a goal, and that's to provide the kids in our community with a high quality education in a safe and nurturing school environment. Seneca Valley High School, as it exists right now, has over 2,100 students enrolled. And these students are amazing. They're smart and engaged, they're interested, they're curious. These are student athletes and artists. They're in one of our 7 honor societies. They're in our chess club, on our debate team, in our school play, on the robotics team. Our kids deserve more, and we're committed to taking whatever steps are necessary to maintain the safety and security of our building. I've been the principal at Seneca Valley now for over 12 years. I love this school, and I'm proud of our accomplishments. Each year, we graduate students who go on to 2-year, 4-year, and community colleges, students who join the military or who enter the world of work. Our students earn millions of dollars in scholarships each year for their accomplishments in the classroom and on the playing field. And last year, we came together to open an amazing new building and to introduce career programs that allow students to graduate not just with their high school diplomas, but also with industry-recognized certifications. The last 19 months have been very hard on our students, though. We anticipated that this transition would be a challenge for our students. Throughout COVID, our counselors have maintained contact with students, especially those who are most vulnerable. And our student well-being team has continued to provide resources and services to students and families experiencing trauma. The work has continued into this school year, as has the inclusion of counseling groups, partnerships with the Department of Health and Human Services that provide wraparound services to students and families, and the opening of our new wellness center. It's clear from the events over the last few weeks that these interventions must continue, and that we must enhance our relationship with parents as we return to normal and build the kind of school culture that we're all proud of. I'm asking you all to answer our call for help when we send out invitations to volunteer in school and to join teams that will be taking action on behalf of our students. As we begin this work, I'd like to put the events of the last 2 months into context for you. I think it's important to separate the fighting from the lockdowns and the shelters. For as long as I've been here, I've never considered Seneca Valley High School to be a fighting school. While we have certainly seen our fair share of conflicts, for the most part, our students have allowed us to support them and mediate before the fights occur. This year, we've seen an increase in fighting behavior. We're working to reestablish the relationships that these students have traditionally had with us as administrators, with counselors, and with each of our teachers, so they'll start turning to us for help as they had before. It takes time to rebuild trust, and we recognize the time we've spent away from the building likely impacts that process. I want to reiterate that there are a very small number of students who are engaging in these fights. In each case, we've responded swiftly and implemented appropriate consequences in accordance with the MCPS Code of Conduct, including significant suspensions. We also engage students in restorative practices when they return from suspension in an effort to repair the harm caused by the event. Counselors are likewise mobilized to play a larger role in the students' school experience. I'm equally concerned, though, with the number of students who are circling around the fights and filming them for entertainment. When we're made aware of this, we respond as well. I need parent help with this, though. Please speak with your children about this. These fights should not be looked at as clickbait for social media. They're acts of violence. Students get hurt. Staff puts themselves in harm's way to protect both the combatants and the rest of our student body. I'll address any questions about how we respond to fights in a few minutes. The lockdowns over the last few weeks have been called in accordance with how we are expected to respond in a crisis. In the first case, we received word from a physical education teacher that he heard what sounded like shots fired near the school. All students were brought into the building, and in consultation with Montgomery County Police, who were meeting with me on a different matter, we initiated a lockdown. During the initial stages of the event, we did not know exactly where the shots were coming from or what the level of danger was to students and staff. Only after we received word from MCPD that it was safe to do so, did we step down to a shelter in place and then a return to our normal schedule. Following that incident, we requested additional police presence to affirm to the community that we were safe and support from MCPS to help our students and staff start to deal with the trauma of the event. That incident was followed by our football game last Friday, where multiple fights occurred on the concourse by our concession stand, causing security and police to intervene. We made the decision to end the game early to allow police to assist in bringing an end to the fights and to ensure a safe exit for all those attending the game. Yesterday, we announced that the start time for our October 29th football game against Damascus has been moved to 3:30 p.m. We're currently discussing additional steps to discourage students from engaging in these fights during the upcoming game and at all future events. This week, we experienced a number of other events. First, early yesterday, we became aware of a screenshot of a text message threatening violence in our cafeteria at lunch. We immediately notified MCPD and began an investigation. As word of the text message spread, we shared with students and staff that we were aware of the message and that we were working with police to identify its origin. I believe this text message was rumor-based in response to fears from last week's community shooting. When I finish my remarks in a few minutes, perhaps one of our partners in MCPD can talk about how we determine the credibility of threats. Yesterday after lunch, we received a call over the radio of noises off campus that once again sounded like gunshots in the community. Students were brought into the building and we elected to go into shelter in place. Montgomery County Police supported us in a quick exit from shelter and an orderly on-time dismissal. I want to close by saying that I know there's fear in the community and there's fear in the school. We're partnering with MCPS and other Montgomery County agencies to support students and staff in dealing with the trauma that can be associated with some of these events. I think what's most important to remember is that we have a process we follow in response to crises. They were implemented, and as a result, students and staff have been able to be safe. We'll be holding additional meetings starting next week to start working with our parent community on ways to address the fighting. We will also be working with our students and student leaders to allow space to dialogue about their feelings surrounding these incidents, as well as to join us in identification of practical solutions from their perspectives that will begin to restore Seneca Valley to the safe space that it has been for students in the past. We know we have many students, parents, and community partners who are eager to partner with us, and to help. These meetings will allow us to create a thoughtful plan that we're confident will make a difference. Everett, I think at this point, I'm ready for us to start with any questions that you have.
All right, so I will start the questioning, and you answered many of them in your comments, Dr. Cohen. I didn't know if we wanted to hear anything from our security before we move forward.
Certainly, Mr. Davis, I would like to just reinforce what Principal Cohen said. Principal Cohen and his team did an outstanding job of responding to the threat streams that he described. The value of our partnership with Montgomery County Police Department was very clear in those situations. Everyone collaborating together, following the training, sharing real-time information allowed us to protect the safety and security of not only of our students, but our staff, as well as the event that occurred last Friday night, unfortunately, at our football games. Everyone working together. So we are committed to continue to work with Principal Cohen, our community, our police partners to develop really positive solutions and how we can engage our students in the problem-solving process.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I appreciate that. So I'll go ahead and Ms. Jornby.
I was wondering if I saw a few comments in the chat about expulsion, and I thought it would be appropriate to share a word about that, because I see a few people who've asked that question, if that's okay.
You're responding to the question in the chat, in the Q&A, excuse me?
No, because so many people asked it, I wondered if it was appropriate to share it out loud.
Let's do this for now, because I want to make sure I honor the questions that were answered. Again, preference to those who had submitted them in advance. And as we continue through, we'll try to get through as many of these as we can. If you wouldn't mind, panel, again, just for the sake of our audience as well, we're going to preference our time for those who submitted the questions in advance. I'm sure there'll be overlap. As you think of additional questions, as you probably will, as you hear the responses, please feel free to enter them in the Q&A. And we'll respond based on the panelists' area of expertise as we continue. And that way we'll kind of have two streams of Q&A and we'll maximize our time together. So I'll go ahead and go to the first of the questions that was submitted in advance. And again, some of these have been answered, but Dr. Cohen, I'll still go ahead and put them out there. Just I think it could be helpful to hear them a second time for our audience members. What are some of the consequences for students who are involved in fights and school sanction activities?
Sure. So in Montgomery County, we have a student code of conduct. I would encourage anybody who is not familiar with it to go onto the school system website, and I'll also ask my team to link it to the front page of our website as well. The short answer, Everett, is there is a continuum of possible consequences. Ranging from community circle, where we bring the combatants together to discuss and to mediate and to move past those challenges. There are also some in-house consequences that are possible: detentions, some level of service, up through suspensions, and depending on the level of seriousness, severity, if somebody gets hurt, if it's a repeat offender, it could rise all the way to the level of a recommendation for expulsion. I think it'll help with the question that Shauna Kay was getting to. In the state of Maryland, a principal is only permitted to suspend a student for up to 10 days without recommending a hearing be held. The hearing is then held at the central office where a determination can be made for an extended suspension longer than those 10 days or up to and including expulsion.
Thank you. So I'll continue on, excuse me, with our next question is asking more information and again, recognizing that you did address some of this, but I think it's helpful to hear it. If you could explain a little bit more about school lockdowns and shelter in place, some background behind that, and when we know when to go into those.
So I can answer that, but I think it's probably better if I defer to our head of security for the school system, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Principal Cohen. We've worked very well with our Montgomery County Police partners in developing our response protocols. We look for national best practices. A lockdown, as Principal Cohen has indicated, is warranted when we believe there is imminent danger to the school, either within the building or within the surrounding area of the school or the school campus area. So that's when we go into a lockdown status where all of our teachers try to quickly get any students who may be in the hallways into a secure classroom or location there. And then we just kind of wait till information develops. We try to make sure that students are out of harm's way. And then the difference between that and what Principal Cohen said when they went into the shelter, the public safety shelter, is when we get word from our police partners that there is a threat concern within the school community that may be approaching the school. Then we will go into a shelter where that is different than a lockdown. We're not in the shelter situation. We try to make sure all the exterior doors are closed and secured. The principal can activate their on-site emergency team to help them navigate. That is less of a restrictive response option than the lockdown, but the lockdown is the highest response protocol that we have within Montgomery County Public Schools.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Let's see, the next question that I have here, what is known about the background issues that are leading to an increase in the violence this year?
So I can speak specifically about the fights. I may defer to Commander Pallas or Captain Flynn if the question is related to the community. I think it's important to share that a significant percentage of the fights that we've experienced this year seem interconnected. There are a group of students, primarily young ladies, who have had ongoing conflict with each other over the last year. And that continues to spill over into the school. And so just from a practical perspective, to help you understand, two students may get into a fight in the community. They come into school the next day and one friend decides to fight. A friend of one of the combatants decides to fight the other girl in school. And so we are working with these students and these families to identify the source of the animosity between these students and to provide the students with and families with additional resources, and also to build their skill set in making different and better decisions. I think that answers the question as I understand it for the school. I don't know if Commander Pallas, you have anything to add related to the community.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. Yeah, and I see one of the questions was about crime in and around the community. So just so you know, the last couple weeks, believe it or not, we have had several crimes in and around the school that have not been related to the school at all. One in particular occurred in a neighborhood across the street. That was the sound of shots fired. We did, in fact, have shots that were fired. We have some video of the incident. It's currently being investigated. We have one of the perpetrators under arrest, and we have active warrants for at least one other person. So those have all been identified, and then also to address a couple of the general questions that have been come in. And that specific event, although we're never 100% about anything, I'm about as sure as I can be that that is not gang related. It was not related to anything at school. I know the motivation behind it. I'm not going to share it here in an open forum because it's an ongoing investigation, but I can assure you that it was not gang related. It was not tied in any way to the school, except for the fact of proximity. It was close to the school. That's what happened. We have had several other fights in close proximity to the school, surprisingly involving females. And I say that usually because it's my gender that's responsible for the violence for the most part. But the last couple of fights we have had have been between adult females. So that's been a little interesting. And again, not really related to school, but it's been close to school. So hopefully that helps, sir.
Thank you. Our next question deals with social media. With social media putting out information about students wanting to set up attacks or other information such as shootings, what actions are being taken to deal with these actions?
I'll start by saying, as a school representative, we take all of these threats very seriously. And we immediately report them, not just to school system security, but also to our great partners in law enforcement. Again, I think the core of this question may be better served by pivoting to Commander Pallas or to Mr. Clark in how we as a system approach social media threats.
Thank you, Principal Cohen. I'll start and then we can turn over to Commander Pallas. This is where we need our parents' help. This is a huge challenge for all of us. The advent of social media, having those honest conversations with all of our children about what is appropriate use and inappropriate use. When these things really go off and jump off, it really puts us behind. We try to evaluate those threat streams. As Principal Cohen said, we will immediately reach out to our law enforcement partners, whether it be the community engagement officer, the detectives assigned to each of the police commands, and Commander Palace can certainly talk about what they do in terms of next steps. We try to make those assessments in conjunction with our law enforcement community and then develop response strategies here. But this is an area that really challenged all of us, I think, in all of our communities. So again, just reaching out to our parents, speaking to your children about the best way to use social media. And the other thing is, I'm very happy to say that several of our students across the school system understand their role in safety and security. They're coming forward to that trusted adult in their school building. They're coming forward to a community engagement officer and sharing those concerns so we can take the necessary action to prevent any occurrence of violence in the communities. So I'll turn it over to Commander Palace that can speak a little bit more about what the police department does in those situations.
Certainly. Thank you, Ed. So just to give you an example, when we get a call from the school or from a parent with any sort of threat, it's thoroughly investigated. And just to give you an example, recently we had an incident at Seneca Valley where there was a text threat, I believe, was received by a staff member or sent to a staff member. Well, we initially respond with patrol, and then it is quickly turned over to one of our station detectives. In this case, they did some of their magic, let's just say that. They did some computer analysis, some computer work, figured out that an actual fake account had been set up in order to send this text. Through some paperwork, figured out who set up that account, where they lived. They went and knocked on the door, and as Dr. Cohen said, we rely on the parents. And in this case, and I've also been present on another case involving alleged gun threat, the parents were fantastic. They were very cooperative with our detectives. The young man confessed to basically creating a fake account, making a fake threat in order to avoid, let's just say, some consequences. So anything like that, just so you understand though, for every one of those we investigate, that takes many person hours to track down, to do the subpoenas and do everything like that. So if there's any way as parents, again, that's the theme here. And I realize, believe me, I realize the majority of your kids are fantastic. I've interacted with several of them, and I know they're good kids, and it is a small percentage of the kids that are responsible for a large amount of the problem. So I'm not chastising anybody, believe me, but please continue to encourage your kids to be honest with you, have those honest and open conversations about social media, about the consequences. I think in our day, it was, the equivalent of pulling the fire alarm, which I guess can still be done, but now it's sending some sort of anonymous threat in order to try to get out of something or get the school shut down. So any help from you is greatly appreciated.
Mr. Davis, real quick also, I just want to reassure our parent community that these threats just don't come in during the academic day. They come in at all hours and on the weekends. So we will be having those conversations with our detectives, our law enforcement officers, 2 a.m. in the morning, to try to make sure our schools remain safe when we open up the very next day.
Thank you, team, for that. And that's I think a good segue to our next question, is asking about types of actions that are being taken to address the trauma students and our staff as well have experienced over the last couple of weeks. If you could speak to that.
Sure. I can tell you that this has been a very difficult week for, I think, virtually everybody in our community. It certainly has been for me. We have continued to provide services through our counseling services department. They are offering daily circles for students to come together, to speak with each other, to speak with adults, trusted adults in the building. Our well-being team continues to reach out to families, especially as we discover that students are feeling trauma from this event or experiencing a level of crisis as a result of one of these events. We've brought in outside resources within MCPS. Our partners in other offices within the district are providing lessons that we are giving to students as part of our student advisory program. We brought in the employee assistance program. to meet with any staff member who needed someone to talk to or a referral for support. As staff, we've been leaning on each other. This has been very difficult for them as well, because I think maybe that's something to remind our parents out there. Our staff love your kids. They care deeply, not just about their education, but about them as human beings. And they also love our school and have worked very hard to get us to this place. And so for them to see this very small number of students, and I want to reiterate, it's a very small number of students creating such havoc and upheaval for so many people is painful for them. And so we are providing opportunities for them to speak with each other, to speak with support networks as well. I've been holding after school meetings with them to answer questions. With our students, I will be meeting, I met with some students today. Our counselors met with some students today. I'll be meeting again with students tomorrow and through next week. I'll also be meeting with representatives of the student body to discuss ways that they can be a part of turning the tide at our school, of helping the 99% really drown out the noise of the less than 1% who are creating these challenges. I'm not sure if anybody else wanted to jump in with other supports that we have available.
Sure, I'll jump in. So we work with the Restorative Justice Unit, and one of our approaches includes targeted conflict resolution. So we are working with some of the students involved, whether they're still at Seneca Valley or at an alternative placement, in trying to get to the root of the conflict in order to stem the flow of the retaliation amongst the girls. So we are working with the families, including not just work with teachers and counselors, but also our social worker, to see if we can get to the root of that conflict, if we can get the students in a room together or on a Zoom together in order to start to talk it out, so that we can make sure that we can put a stop to it. All parties have to be willing. And so it's something that sometimes takes some time to break down some of those defenses. We also offer, through mindfulness support and through restorative circle support, venues for students and staff to be able to talk about their feelings of safety, to be able to talk about some of the things that are bringing some anxieties to the surface, so that we can talk about solutions, how to heal as a community. So those are some of the supports that we do provide. And we work with partner agencies as well, Shepherd Pratt, Every Mind, with therapy services, but we also work with conflict resolution centers of Montgomery County that's open to not just school use, but also community use. So families that might have conflict or want to talk about conflict and have an objective party that's not MCPS, work on resolution, that is an available resource as well.
Thanks, Sean. I'm sorry. I wanted to say, you know, I get to my colleagues that, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention restorative practices and mindfulness work, which is at the core of what we do. The reality is I get very emotional when I talk about how difficult this has been for our staff and for our students. And so I'm answering these questions off the top of my head, not with any notes. So thanks for the tip in there, Shanika.
I wanted to highlight the school that Dr. Cohen and his team do provide lessons to students in regards to social emotional learning. And I know his hands and his heart is full right now. And I think that's an important component, because every part of school is about learning, and not just learning about academics, but also learning when it comes to behaviors and decision-making. And that's something that Seneca Valley has in place. And I think it is an important day-to-day component.
And I was just going to add before we go to the next question, Dr. Cohen, to your credit, you did mention that in your initial comments about the work with restorative justice and with the team restorative practices. So I just wanted to highlight that to elevate that piece. And another piece I did want to elevate for our families, because I know it was asked in the question about what supports have been provided to staff, which I believe is also critical. Through Dr. Cohen's leadership, also our employee assistance program, which works closely with our staff members throughout the district, has also been on site to provide support to staff. So I just wanted our families to be aware of both of those. The next set of questions is around communication. A question about communication, if you could just talk about the communication cycle, I think is how I would summarize it. When there is a lockdown, when there is an event in the community, kind of timing, the details around that, what are the venues for receiving that communication, just so our community is clear around that protocol.
Sure, thanks. And I know there's been a lot of questions about this in the community, and so I'm glad that question was brought up tonight in this part of the meeting. One thing I'll say from the outset is that this community, I believe, knows in the 16 years I've served Germantown, they can expect nothing but transparency from me. We're going to be honest, we're going to be forthright, and we're going to share what we can. The process of communicating with a lockdown is fluid. First and foremost, when there's a call for a lockdown, we communicate immediately over the PA system that we're in a lockdown. As Mr. Clark shared earlier, that suggests that there is imminent danger in the community or in the school. And our first and only priority becomes the safety and well-being of the souls that are in our charge in the building. And so in some cases, we're able to make a communication out to the public while we're in lockdown. In other cases, we are not, because we're managing the situation, or we're helping to manage the situation. I can share that as soon as we are able to do so, we put a communication out to the public using multiple communication tools. I use MCPS Connect, what we used to call Connect Ed. Also use Twitter. And when possible, we will post to the PTA and Booster Facebook pages and to the website. Sometimes that's possible, sometimes it's not, but the primary communication will always come through MCPS Connect. Similarly, when we are in a shelter in place, the communication starts with the souls in the building and then makes its way to the broader community. And I know that frustrates some parents sometimes, because you want to know a lot of answers and you want to know them now. And the reality, we don't always have the answers to give you. And quite frankly, as the person who serves as incident commander on site from the educational side, we don't have time to take and answer what sometimes amounts to as many as 200 or 300 phone calls while we are trying to manage the situation and keep everybody safe and communicate with law enforcement as they do their jobs. All of these incidents are followed up with a written notification to the community with the information that we can share. Again, I know sometimes the letters that I send out are disappointing to some because they don't provide as much detail as you would like. They provide the detail that I am permitted to provide so that you are informed about what happened and what we did, and about the fact that we were able to keep our students and staff safe. Follow-up communication, email, phone calls, we get a lot of those after the events, and I share the responsibility with my broader administrative and counseling team to return those calls and emails. I know there's probably some parents on this call right now who are waiting for a call back from me right now. You can imagine with 100 messages from parents wanting to speak directly to me, that takes time. Everett, I think that answers your question. And colleagues, am I leaving anything out?
Thank you. Just trying to pause for some wait time for the panel. There was additional questions around protocols for, which I'm sure has been explained at the beginning of the year, but again, it's helpful to have a recap. Protocols for entering the building during the day. Specifically, I saw several comments around lunch. If you could just recap that for our families, what are the expectations and protocols for that?
The expectations are known, I believe, by the entire community. We have faced some challenges this year as we've learned our new building and as we've tried to help our students to understand the important role that they play in keeping our building safe. During the school day, all visitors to the school, including our students, need to enter through the front door. The front door is the entrance on Crystal Rock Drive. That is the only acceptable entrance during the school day, with one exception. At lunchtime, our students are allowed in the stadium, and they're allowed to re-enter the building through the cafeteria door. Challenge that we've been facing with our students this year is they are choosing to violate the safety of our school and their peers by propping doors open and letting people in. In many cases, they're doing this so that their parents can deliver food to them, so that DoorDash can deliver food to them, because our community knows that we do not allow DoorDash and we do not allow deliveries of food during the school day. And so they're choosing to prop open doors or to wait by doors rather than follow the rules. We also know that some of our students are leaving campus to go across the street to buy lunch from some of the local restaurants. Our students are very much aware that we do not have an open lunch. We haven't for many years. When students are found to have left campus without permission, they're brought to my assistant principals and we deal with them accordingly. But that is a struggle right now. And I am asking for parent support, for parent assistance. We don't have a closed lunch because we want to be mean. We don't have a closed lunch because we want to control your kids. We have a closed lunch because we have major highways for students to cross to get to any place where they might be able to purchase food. And we've seen year after year, students get injured and in some cases very seriously injured and in one case killed when they have tried to cross one of these major roads and they've lost the battle with the vehicle coming the other direction. I have seen far too many accidents and have called far too many parents and I've watched way too many parents crying in my office over students who have been seriously injured as a result. And so we have closed lunch. And so I'm asking parent support. That is the primary reason why we have the policy that we do. The other challenge is that students want to be nice. They see a friend or they see somebody that they think they know who looks familiar, who looks like they're not that bad. And they're knocking on the door or they see them at the end of the hallway door and they see them and they want to come in. And our students are letting them in because they want to do the right thing. They want to be nice people. Our kids are great. I get it. They want to be kind. Parents, again, I'm asking for your help in helping our students to understand that every time they do that, even if it's a student that they know, they are potentially letting somebody in the building who could be a risk to our school. We have a shared responsibility, just like in any school and in any business and any building in this world. We have a shared responsibility to keep each other safe. We are not a police state. I do not plan on making Seneca Valley a police state by placing guards at every corner. But I do expect that our students, and I also expect our families to support that we must work together to avoid some of the challenges that come from visitors entering the building illegally.
Thank you for that, Dr. Cohen. We had a couple of questions. I'm trying to be mindful of our time also. I see we have about 10 more minutes, and so we'll try to again get through as many more as we can, staying with the themes. And I just want to encourage our audience to please continue, as I can see you're doing, to enter your questions in the chat so the panel can continue to respond to those. Had several questions around how students can become involved in being solution oriented. So just wanted to discuss opportunities for our students.
Yeah, as I said, I've met with some students today and I'll be meeting with students over the course of the next week. Additionally, I'll be meeting with student leaders. And in each case, I'm inviting students to be part of the solution, to work with me and with our student leadership groups to allow the 99% to drown out the noise from the 1%. and to create an environment that they can be proud of. We have a Principals Advisory Council. All of our students are welcome to come to those meetings to join the conversation. We'll be meeting again in a couple of weeks to discuss this very thing. Our Student Government Association is already discussing steps that the student government, and the rest of our student body can take to help make our school a safer place. And I think most importantly, our students can make the decision every day to do the things that we each need to do as individual citizens of our school to make the school safe. If they see something, say something. If they get if they see a text, if they see a tweet, if they see a snap, to bring it to our attention, just like so many of them did yesterday. I was very proud. It was a hard day yesterday, but I was very proud of our student body, how many of them said, enough is enough. This is not our school. This is not Seneca Valley. And they shared that information. By following the rules about not leaving campus or not letting other people into the building, those are big things that they can do. And also engaging in conversations with each other and with us as staff about what some of the root causes are of the behaviors that are getting in the way of student success, that are serving as barriers to our school being the kind of place we all want to be. I think that we need to take the time to listen to our kids, listen to our students, listen to their thoughts on this. They have a lot to say about the last 18 months. They have a lot to say about the last 2 months. And we have provided, and we are providing opportunities for them to have their voices elevated in that work.
So last few questions, we had some questions around the role of it says the SRO, and as we know, we have a different program this year, but if we could just clarify what is the role of our MCPD in supporting our schools?
So I'm going to pivot to Captain Flynn in a second, but I do want to take a moment. I didn't say this at the beginning. I do want to take a moment to thank Officer Russell Larson, who, along with Officer Prusner and Officer Malat, and forgive me if I'm giving them the wrong ranks, Commander and Captain. But I just call them Officer. They have been amazing partners, as has Captain Flynn and Commander Palace, in making sure that we are doing everything we can for our students and our community. But I especially want to call out Russ Larson for really showing a tremendous commitment to our school and community. Captain?
All right. So thank you so much. Just to make sure everyone's kind of on the same page with the way this is working is with the new community engagement officers, there are no longer SROs assigned inside the school, but we do have community engagement officers, as Dr. Cohen said, Officer Larson, Officer Prusner, Officer Malat. We also have Officer Gregory, and they are assigned as a team to all the schools in the 5th district in the Germantown area. So they're not physically located in the schools any longer, but when they do get called to the schools, they spend their time near the schools and they're available to respond to the schools when they get a call, whether that be the school calling them, whether it's a parent calling them. If they get the call, that's who's responding. And they've had additional and special training so that when they respond, they've worked with the schools for many years. They have great working relationships. It's been a terrific collaboration with Ed Clark and with Dr. Cohen. And so they are best equipped to handle these types of school calls, because at the end of the day, these are officers that truly get it, and they understand that a lot of these behaviors that kids will do are best treated by the schools and allowed to let the schools handle them. So these are officers that kind of understand both sides of it, and they've been doing their jobs for quite some time. But that's how it's currently working, is that the CEOs, the community engagement officers, are posted near the schools. There's equal coverage, and they're able to respond whenever they are needed.
Thank you, Captain Flynn. And the last question, I think we've been through just about all of them, the themes anyway, is about resources in the school as far as number of security, cameras. If you could just speak more specifically to what school security is available.
Sure. We have somewhere around 200 cameras in our building. I'm not sure, Ed, if you know the exact number. They cover most most of the interior of the building, along with quite a bit of the exterior of the building. We have 6 security team members, including security team leader, Mr. Derek Gilliam, and their work is exceptional with kids. They understand that they are not there simply to take kids to detention. They're there to mentor, to support, to be the ears and eyes of the school, and to provide, in many cases, counsel. And they do a great job of it. We augment the work that security does through our administrative team. I have 4 assistant principals and myself.
Thank you. And as I said, I know our time is waning short. I did want to publicly thank you, Dr. Cohen, and your team. I know this was not an easy meeting, having sat in your shoes as a principal and also as a parent. I did not introduce myself in that manner, but I think it's important for the participants to know that I also serve, in addition to my role in MCPS, as an MCPS parent of 3, including my oldest son who is in high school. So I very much can understand and get and empathize with the concerns that absolutely that our families have. We want to make sure that we are working together to support the Seneca Valley community, and that we are connecting for student success, particularly around safety and security. So again, just wanted to thank Dr. Cohen and the team for what they're doing to support our students. And so with that, Dr. Cohen, I did want to turn it over to you for us to close out for the evening.
Thanks. So again, I just want to say how grateful I am to everybody for your support and for your understanding over the last couple of weeks. This has been difficult. I think everybody gets that. I've been grateful. I've been grateful to see as many shows of support and gratitude from the community, but I think what's mattered the most to me is the number of you who have asked, how can we help? I will be, again, transparent when I say that Seneca Valley does not currently have as robust a core of volunteers during the school day as we would like. We have wonderful and amazing volunteers who work our PTSA and who work our boosters, who work our African American Parent Council. These parents give hundreds of hours of their time each year, but during the school day, we have probably not always invited parents in as much as I assure you we will be doing in the near future. How can we help seems to be the question that I get most frequently. And the answer starts by attending tonight's meeting. It starts by engaging with each other in these conversations. I have seen so many conversations on social media where you are debating the merits of this policy or that. You are celebrating the successes of our school and challenging people to remember that we've got 99% of our students, 2,100 students, who are doing great things every day, and really requiring those in your peer and community groups to remember that Seneca Valley really is an amazing place with wonderful kids. You can also get hands-on more involved starting next week. We will be holding a series of meetings where we will bring parents together in smaller groups where it is not us talking at you, we're talking to you. It will be us listening to you and talking with you and making plans. I don't pretend to have all the answers about how you can help, but I'm guessing that many of you do. And we will be listening. And so starting next week, we will be having a series of meetings where we have those exact conversations. I think, Everett, our first meeting, I believe is it Wednesday next week?
Yes, sir. Wednesday at 6 o'clock, I believe, and I'm sure we'll send out more information.
I'll be publishing more information about that in the coming days, but go ahead and hold the date. I know we also have an African American Parent Council meeting that evening. We're working on balancing the time so that our parents in that group can also join the first conversation as well. I want to close, I think, where I started. I love this school. Love your kids. I've had the blessing and good fortune to serve Germantown for 16 years, 12 in Seneca Valley. And I say that because there's no other place I would want to work. There's no other group of staff members. There's no other group of kids that I would want to serve at the schoolhouse level. I'm appreciative of each of you as parents for your understanding that there are issues facing our community that are bigger than our one school, but that are critical to the kids and to the adults who come to our school every day. And so thank you for being here. Thank you for your ongoing support. Thank you for joining us next week when we roll up our sleeves and get to work. And thank you for talking with your kids about everything that we discussed tonight and encouraging them to come to school tomorrow ready to learn, because my staff, I guarantee you, will be coming to school tomorrow ready to teach, ready to nurture, ready to support each of them as they work toward their dreams. Thanks, Everett, and thanks to everybody else on the panel for helping us through this tonight.
Thank you all, and we wish you a good evening.